Sasha. I'm sorry I couldn't see you in person, but this is wonderful. Thank you so much for this amazing documentary. I'm not sure if I'm jealous of you or if or if I would have kept away from something like this, because I can't imagine how much you had to go through. How daunting was this for you, or how exciting was it?
A little both. I mean, the film, Louis Armstrong was once one of the most famous people in the world at a time when there weren't that many famous people on his level. So thankfully, there was lots of archive over the years, but we
Yeah.
had a small army of producers, scouring, looking under things, looking under rocks, finding really amazing archival. So we're lucky that he was famous.
Yeah, you are lucky he was famous, but also what a gift, Sasha, to have these recordings from him and the things that he was saying, at that time when he was it just blew my mind. What surprised you most about Lewis after you started sifting through all of this stuff and then you had to kind of put it all together? Was there something that kind of stood out for you most about him?
Well, you know him for his hits and you know him for his public persona, which, he you learn that there's a public persona and there's a persona off camera. And the
Yeah.
off camera persona was a real human being, an everyday person who had normal everyday feelings that you just wouldn't expect for him to express himself in the ways that he did. But if he was your neighbor, you wouldn't be surprised. It's just that he's Louis Armstrong. So it's kind of shocking and surprising.
Yeah, yeah. I always remember, well, growing up as a kid, listening to him play trumpet, and I go, man, I would like to take up that instrument, but I could never do it. Are you a trumpet player? Can you do it?
No, I play guitar. I have no experience with trumpet, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. It's a tough instrument, that's for sure. You need a lot of hot air, which I have, but anyway, I never couldn't master it. What could I say? Also, getting the interviews, like lining up, some of the greats. Tell me a little bit about the challenges of that, or were people really ready to just come and talk about him? Were open to you when you approached them.
Well, the folks that we interviewed for the film, there aren't many people. There's Wynton Marsalis,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
Dan Morgenstern. These folks are happy to talk about Louis Armstrong at any given moment. So it wasn't really much of a challenge. I mean, we've had so much support from the people who have dedicated their lives to maintaining his legacy. I mean, even the pitch of the tunes were,
Yeah.
that stuff was heavily scrutinized. I mean, you're not thinking about what if it's off like a millisecond or, but to these real jazz weirdo nerds, if the pitch is off just a little bit, the film has no credibility. So, from all the folks who are really in Armstrong's life, even though he's not alive,
Yeah.
the people who are in his life today were very, very helpful.
Yeah, and I also found I learned so much about him by watching this. So thank you for that, because it was so eye-opening and so well done. But I didn't know about, that people who are now fans of his or who have become fans of his, some of them were detractors in the beginning because they felt that he was, like, playing for the white man, and I found that so fascinating. How do you, how do you feel about that?
Well, I might have felt the same way as a kid, listening to hip hop and, coming from a particular time that I was living through. But you got to remember that he's from a different time. He was born in the
Right.
early 1900s. And so by the time he's in his 50s and 60s and civil rights is happening, younger folks are more, militant, more in the streets, more in your face. So,
Mm.
of course, it's easy for them to say, well, this guy's not really for the cause. But you got to understand, I mean, this guy was like basically living in slavery, living in the South 40 years after slavery. I can't imagine things were that radically different.
Yeah.
So he says in the film, the things that I saw made my skin crawl, the
For
things that he
sure.
had to live through. So you've got to look at where everyone is, where
Mm.
they come from. And I think that because there was a level of freedom during civil rights in terms of Black people taking control of their freedom and being more vocal about what they wanted to see change,
Mm.
the fact that he wasn't necessarily vocal to
Yeah.
them, it felt like a betrayal, but he was contributing in his own ways.
Yeah, absolutely he was. That is an understatement. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Sasha. I really wish you the very best here at TIFF, and I know people will just love this documentary. And I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to chat with me today. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, take care.
See you.